Hey folks, my name is Girish Bali, the host for Back to Basics for another week. We are at season 3 and we're going to speak with Larry Kaul regarding income, solopreneurship, lifestyle. I mean, these are the words that we'll be using. I mean, if you think about it, the lifestyle that we live in, we get really feared as what we're going to be getting into when we retire. And yes, we are definitely scared. But the thing is, we need to plan it now. We need to make our lifestyles pretty much the same what we are when we get eldered, when we get older. Now, the question is, how often do you need to compromise? And that compromise ruins the happiness sometimes. And today is the day that we're going to go and start kind of resolving an issue, and let's talk about these issues. And today is the day for that. So let's speak with Larry Call. I'm very excited to go and speak with him later today. So I'll see you there. How are you, folks? Thank you again for listening to Back to Basics. Earlier today, I did mention that we are going to be speaking with our guest, Larry Call, and we are going to be talking about compromise, just like what I said in my intro. And let's get into it. Why waste time? Why don't we talk to our guest and understand that, you know what? Why compromise? Just be happy the way you are and just keep on going. So, Larry, how are you? Thanks for coming to Back to Basics.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this great topic and to connect with your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again, Larry, for coming on the show and definitely honored for sure. But before we start talking about solopreneurship and compromise and happiness and sadness and all that fun stuff, what does back to basic mean to you?
It's such a great question, and you've articulated that to me in a few different ways, and I'm kind of pondering about how to answer that, and I think it's that when I allow myself to enter the center of who I am at the core, that's getting me back to basics. So whatever that is, I don't even necessarily know, and I don't have to figure it out.
Hmm.
What I have to do is find different ways of getting out of my own way.
Yeah.
So I don't overcomplicate my life and I don't overcomplicate my thoughts.
Hmm.
Because that
Yeah.
part of myself will give me the answer of what back to basics means, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you again, Larry, for answering that question. On the calendar, when I asked you what you said is there, let me read what you just said, okay? You said, we discussed a lot of ideas. For me, it's about returning to principles to inform all actions. Now, what do you think of that?
I think that's pretty good.
You didn't
I didn't
realize
even
that you
remember I didn't
really
even remember
continued.
what I wrote. Um, but yeah, I think that's a that is what it is, and it's like there's certain like universal principles, universal laws, whatever you call them, and they're kind of intuitively obvious.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Larry, thank you. Thank you again for answering that question and thank you again for coming on the show. So let me ask you this. Let's talk about Larry before he became Larry today. I mean, what was Larry before? I mean, were you thinking that there was a broken system, a broken gap that you were thinking that you need to fix? Or what are your thoughts on that part?
I think for me, I was very much wrapped up in some conceptions of myself and what success looked like and what I was supposed to be doing with
Mm,
my life that were really not right for me, and were what I could do at the time, and had some skills to be able to to realize, in business and in my life. But I really don't think I was very connected with my core, and I don't think I had an understanding of like we were saying earlier, core principles about how things work. But I think there's always been a part of me that's strived to find that. But I
Mm,
think I shut it off, in pursuit of just things like security and income, and just trying to kind of satisfy, whatever void or lack that I think I felt. And it really wasn't until a couple of years ago that I really started to, I think, tap into some of this core stuff. It
mhm,
took me a while. I would consider myself a late bloomer, but a hard trier
mm.
for
Wow, that's something
things.
new. Thank you, for that. I gotta start using that for my personal life too, so thank you again for that. You know, wh so what are the main cores that you feel that you needed work with? I mean, let's back up a little. I mean, let's talk about the cores that you came up with. So you
Mhm.
explain that to me.
Well, where it started from with me was I would consider it an unburying. So I started doing some what we call shadow work
Mm,
back in 2011 in April. So I did a retreat. It was a weekend, men's weekend. So I don't know, there's about 60, 70 of us there. And what we did, I'd never done before, which was you delve into some of your family of origin sort of stuff. So it's some deep sort of belief systems that you take on, and the impact of that on your life is really considerable. And the idea is surface those so you can really see them. And with
mm,
other people around you witnessing this and bringing it to light, shining a shadow. I
mm,
mean, shining a light,
mm,
on what was, deep down in that shadow, is freeing and sort of pulls a lot of that stuff up. So for me personally, I had to do a lot of that first, to be able to open myself up enough,
mm,
to be able to start to explore kind of these core principles that I've discovered and have been living by. Now, I set this up back in my 20s when I started learning how to do Tai Chi,
mm,
and I didn't see the connection at the time, but there is a mind-body connection without doubt. And as I kind of unburied some of this stuff from my family of origin and from my past, I started doing Tai Chi again.
mm,
And I think disrupting these things inside me and letting them start to come out and release them
mm,
opened me up for some new things to come in. So I think
mm.
that's the starting point.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Thank you again for that. So, can you explain the shadow work? I mean, was that I mean, it sounded like that was the difficult point for you, wasn't it?
I think it was a freeing point for me. I think that so what happened with me, I've always been self-employed. So this is my fourth company. So my company Solopreneur Inc. Is really, to me, the culmination of everything that I've learned, my entire life. I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing, and and what I'm here to do. And I feel that I didn't have that before. I was kind of preparing in a way for this
Mm,
and building all of these skills. And what happened with me, and the reason I did that weekend, was that I had been in another transitional period in terms of trying to figure out. I wanted to start another company. I couldn't figure out how to get a job, didn't really want a
mm,
job, want to start a company, but didn't know which one to do. And I felt a sense of a meltdown, like
mm,
where I just felt I don't know how to do this.
mm,
And I'm kind of stuck. And I had a mentor, and he said, "You need to do this weekend." And after I did the weekend, I started my company called Sales Partners. It took a little while, like a year or so, and that company worked very quickly. And it's not where I ended up. I still have that company. I have somebody running it for me, so I can focus on this one, Solopreneur Inc., which is a better fit for me
mm,
personally. But that exercise there freed me up, and I felt a lot of energy coming out of that. So I went
mm,
into it really in a low place. like feeling
mm,
like I just don't know how I'm going to make a living. I don't know how
mm,
I'm going to make this self-employment thing work again.
mm. So let me ask you this. I've asked this to other entrepreneurs that I have interviewed in season one and season two. Uh, so I wanted to ask you this question now. Was your family always into entrepreneurship, or they were in the corporate jobs too?
It's funny you asked me that. I don't really talk about this much, and I probably should more, but we have a family of entrepreneurs, and going back to 1871.
Hmm.
So my great-grandfather came to the United States from Germany in 1871, and he imported ceramics from Germany, and he
Hmm.
hired artisans in Chicago, I think mostly from Bohemia, which I
Hmm.
guess is part of Czech Republic,
Hmm.
to paint them, and
Hmm.
then he went door to door and he sold them to retail stores.
Hmm.
He never collected a paycheck.
Hmm.
My grandfather went into business with him, never collected a paycheck.
Hmm.
And then my father went into business with my grandfather, and they started a separate business. Neither one of them ever collected a paycheck.
Hmm.
So I guess it does go back. And I forget about this. I never talk about it.
So that's a great thing. There's a reason why I'm asking, because there are families who are, let's say, one is an entrepreneur and the other is a corporate job person. So then I guess the kid automatically kind of becomes a corporate job because it's a really standard paycheck that you get every biweekly or quarterly or monthly, depending on the company. Uh, but there are some people that get influenced by the entrepreneur. I mean, this from this example. So, do you think that parents and families makes and breaks the entrepreneur or the corporate job, thought process? Because it's a guaranteed 9 to 5 salary versus an entrepreneur. Today, you will get, bread and butter, or you won't. So what are your thoughts on that?
My brother and my sister have professions. So my brother's a doctor, my sister's a PhD in psychology. I wanted that. I wanted a profession. I wanted some kind of secure, kind of corporate professional route for myself. And I wasn't able to make it work. And I think that my deeper true nature is really around creating something that is different and unique. And now I know my job is to help other people do the same. So I call them solopreneurs. So these are people who have a passion beyond
Mm,
just a product. So an
mm,
entrepreneur
mm,
has a product, they're looking for money, they want to scale it, they'll go give up control to an investor. It's different. So the solopreneur is kind of looking for a place. So
mm,
how do I take this thing I've got that I love? It's my product is me. It's kind of inside me. I want to go find a way to make a living doing that. And they struggle because they don't have good systems
mm, mm,
around doing that. And when I went into the marketplace, I had a natural ability to get new clients and make
mm,
things happen. And I could figure out how to scale things and
mm,
build businesses. It just intuitive to me
mm,
to be able to do that. But I didn't appreciate it.
mm,
I
mm,
didn't appreciate it.
mm,
And my dad always told me, you never want to work for somebody else
mm,
because you want to have freedom and you don't want anybody telling you what to do.
mm,
Well,
mm,
I'm the only one who heard that. My
mm,
brother and sister grew up in the same house, but they never internalized that. But I think I have it by deeper nature. I'm going to do this. I'm
mm,
going to
mm.
want to do this. I'm not going to be happy working in someone else's system. I want to create my own system. And,
So I
and
think I was just about to ask you a question, but I think I got the answer. The question is that you mentioned that the corporate job was not for me, and I think the question was it because of 9 to 5, or was it a organization, meaning leadership, that it does not really, you know, uh, uh, that you don't like, for example, or you disagree but you cannot vocalize it? Or are you happy not having a 9 to 5 and just be free? So because then you can make your own rules. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think for me, it is that I get a lot of joy in learning, and I get a lot of joy in helping other people get insight into themselves
Hmm.
and into how to do the things that they want to do. I didn't know how to package that in a way that would work in a corporate environment, and I suppose it could. And if I look back, maybe I would have found a route,
Hmm.
to do that, but
Hmm.
that's not what ended up happening. And I mean, now today I'm glad it didn't,
Hmm.
because I love the opportunity to be able to really do whatever I want within this business. I can create whatever I want out of it, and you can't really do that working for somebody else unless you really make them a lot of money. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're a known quantity in the corporate marketplace in terms of your ability to create something, or you have a following or whatever, you can negotiate that kind of a deal. But I
Hmm.
think most people have to work within someone else's system. And
Hmm.
I guess the answer is I really don't like working in other people's systems, partly because I think I want to create my own. And
Oh,
people don't want you to break their system.
that's
They
right.
want you to follow the rules.
Right.
And
Right.
that's not naturally what I'm gonna wanna do. And I think that's a typical solopreneur thing. So
It is.
when we created our approach,
Hmm.
the revenue support system is what we call it, we
Hmm.
realized we had to design it flexibly because the kind of people we're dealing with don't want me telling them what to do.
Hmm.
They want me to provide a support system with guardrails, and they don't wanna have to think too much about it. They wanna have the basic direction, but they don't want, to follow my 5, 7 steps, blindly.
Hmm.
They have their own opinion. They wanna be in charge. They want mastery over their own company.
Hmm.
Uh, they're not looking for me, to give them all the answers.
Hmm. Yeah, Larry, thank you. Thank you again for answering those questions, because a lot of people, they ask these type of questions and they don't know that why does XYZ person goes as a solopreneurship or entrepreneurship, and these might be one of the reasons, or maybe they get pushed into it. That's another topic altogether. But
Yeah.
let me ask you this, Larry. So a person who's not that educated as to what do they need to do in order to be an entrepreneur. Okay, like for example, when you buy a house, someone tells you that you need to have at least 6 months savings, because just in case if you don't have any work, you have enough to go and pay your mortgage for at least for 6 months. Okay, now in an entrepreneur's life, what, there's no game book, is there? Is there a workbook or a playbook? So how do we advise these people that what to look for?
Yeah, and, we'll make some distinctions. So, on the entrepreneur side, I think there's a pathway. I think there's so get a little nuance. There's professional entrepreneurs to me and amateur entrepreneurs.
Okay.
So professional entrepreneur is a career path today.
Hmm.
So you've got an idea, you are maybe getting an MBA and being an entrepreneur or some version of that, and then you join some kind of an incubator program. And there's step-by-step process, and they introduce you to investors, and you just kind of follow the script, and you go down that playbook. I think the amateur entrepreneurs tend to be people that are not as sophisticated as that,
Hmm.
and maybe you're trying to figure out a way to make money. So
Hmm.
there's a whole industry of people teaching them how to do that as well,
Hmm.
that is supporting that around, how do you build your funnels and how do you do your lead gen, and
Hmm.
all of this. I think
Hmm.
for the solopreneur, as I'm defining it, maybe differently than some other people, it's more complicated
Hmm.
because it kind of starts with, we call it build your company from the inside out. So it really starts with, who am I?
Hmm.
What
Hmm.
am I? What do I want? Who do I want to hang around with? Why do I want to hang around with them?
Hmm.
Where am I strong? Where they're weak? So I think starting there is usually what people skip,
Hmm.
and they don't want to do that. They just want to get moving. But that part is really, really important to figure that out, at the baseline. Now, I
Hmm.
think from the money standpoint, um, at the end of the day, are you providing value to someone else in the marketplace or not?
Hmm.
So if they give you a dollar, are they getting $10 in value back or
Hmm.
not? And
Hmm.
if you can't see that, I
Hmm.
think you're putting yourself at risk unless you have a lot of cash in the bank to
Hmm.
go figure that out. But that's why side hustle can be a good idea. So
Hmm.
if you're particularly good at something, um, usually the people I'm dealing with have professionally developed some skill that has in the past historically delivered value
Hmm.
in the marketplace. Either they worked in corporate and they know how to do that, and people hired them for those skills, or they have been self-employed. It's just quite working as well as they'd like.
Hmm.
They've already proven out their ability to deliver value. If you have
Hmm.
not,
Hmm.
jump off the cliff and go work for yourself. It's going to be a long haul.
Hmm. Yeah, Larry, thank you again for that. So basically, you're saying most of the people they miss that step by not networking properly with certain people. I mean, you have to hang out with certain great people in order to be there, right? I mean, I'm not a millionaire guy, but I know a person who is a millionaire. Do I hang out with him and understand his psychoanalysis as to what he's doing, what he's not doing, and go from there? I mean, you think that's a good example?
Yeah, and I think it's the context was important for me. So in the last 2 years, I've really become a student of self-employment, whereas before I was just kind of doing it.
Mm,
But with this company, Solopreneur Inc., I have spent 2 years studying this extensively.
mm,
So my job to me was mastering the nuances of self-employment and then providing a system that condenses that and curates it and in simple processes so other people can use it
mm,
to be successful, because most people are not going to spend a couple of years reading all these books I've read and testing out all these ideas to see which ones are real and taking all these people's courses and trying to figure out what's actually going on
yeah.
with it. And this is the problem with this, is that it's really complicated.
Mm,
It's not what people think unless they're already the people I'm talking to know this already because they've been out there a couple of years.
mm,
So usually when people are finding me, they've been self-employed for a year or 2 or 5 or 10 or whatever. So they're listening to what I'm saying and they're like, "Yeah, it's much more complicated than I thought."
yeah. So, Larry, thank you again for answering that question. So, let me ask you this. And in my intro, I did say that why should we compromise our happiness?
Mm,
And I don't know if I want to compromise. I don't know if I should be happy or I should be sad every single time till I get to my elderly age. I mean, so where do we plan? How do we plan? What does one solopreneur do in order to plan the future? I mean, we don't know how much we need for our retirement. We don't know what our needs are or what our wants are. So, what are your thoughts on that part?
I think to me, it's the core of the whole company, and my shift in thinking over the last 2 years really leads to this. So the idea of making enough income to support your desired lifestyle without compromising your happiness comes from my own experience. So I had to look at, what do I want? I have another business that I've built up over 8 years. I have somebody running that business for me. I took a huge pay cut to do all this I'm doing. I took a risk to
Hmm.
do this, and I'm going slow. Have been going slow and using some retirement savings in addition to passive income from that other company I have, so I can build this in the right way. Financially stupid decision.
Hmm.
It would be smarter to just not pay that person to run that business and take that money.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but why did I not do that? It's because I wasn't happy with it, and I'm lucky and I feel grateful that I'm able to do this. So a lot of people are never able to do what they really want, with their life. Now, without income, nothing works. So
Hmm.
you've got to solve the income problem. So you got to know how to do lead generation. You got to know how to do sales. You got to know how to close business. All of that. That is integral to this. So you got to get the incomes squared away. But income doesn't necessarily provide security.
Hmm.
So what I found was security was when you build a strong personal brand in the marketplace, when you stand for something, when you build a unique company, you build a signature event like I've built, you get known in certain circles, you oversubscribe your offering. Over time, you feel a sense of security as opposed to just being out there chasing your next client, which
Yeah.
is how I've always done it. Um, Purpose, there's a reason I'm doing this. Most of the solopreneurs I meet have some passion or reason or purpose behind what they're doing. We're
Mm,
usually getting a little, we're in our 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s, and kind of thinking, I want another act here, but I'm not just going to do this just for the money, even though I got to make money. Now, another part is joy, which is I want to learn stuff and I want to provide insights to other people. Now,
mm,
I'll do lots of other things, but I wanna do that every day, at
mm,
least for part of the day. Now, I can do what I want all day long,
mm,
it's not realistic, but you wanna build a business that gives you that joy, and people
mm,
don't think about this, and then they build a business and they're burned out in a year because they
mm,
never even they don't even know what makes them happy.
mm,
And then the last part is personal life. So, I've seen a lot of people do this, and I've done it myself, where I built myself companies that really put a stress on the marriage.
mm,
And I think the spouse relationship for people who are self-employed is a big, big pain point
mm,
because you think it's bad for you.
mm,
With years being self-employed and trying to figure this all out, what about your spouse
mm,
who's trying to figure out, are we going to make enough money to go on vacation again? How are things going? Are you okay? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Are you going to come to bed?
mm.
All those kinds of things need to be considered. And what I believe is you build a company with all of that completely mapped out where it's clear, what you want, and you don't want to compromise on any of those 5 elements.
You
You
know,
have
Larry, no, I'm sorry. You were saying something. Go ahead.
No, that's it. If you compromise, you're going to be unhappy. And I think we should get it all. Now, I'm not saying you get to have everything you want. What I'm saying is you can design a life that works for you, and you're going to have to work for it. And Oprah has a good saying about this that I remember hearing way back is you can't have it all. You just can't have it all at the same time.
Mm. Yeah, Larry, thank you again for that. Let me ask you something here. I watch a lot of Shark Tank. Okay, and I've had few people from Shark Tank on my show from season
Mm,
2, season 1. Very
mhm.
grateful. Thank you all for coming here. But let me ask you this: whenever these sharkies, I'm gonna call it sharkies, okay? These guys they tell these entrepreneurs and solopreneurs or whatever you want to call it, the inventors or whatever, right? They say that you need to quit your regular job and just concentrate on what you're proposing here. But the thing is, I don't know that if I'm going to make money or not. So how can you minus one and start something from fresh? And just like what you said, you don't know that if you're going to get any income, then your spouse is going to be mad at you and things around you will be really haywire. So how do you answer that question when these type of situations comes in your way?
Well, I think that goes to the fundamental difference between an entrepreneur and a solopreneur as well. So a solopreneur can scale, and at some point, it's not necessarily a person who's just working on their own. That's not the full definition.
Mm,
Um, it's that the product is coming from inside of them. An entrepreneur has built a product, so they've got their doohickey that does something, and
mm,
they're bringing it on Shark Tank. And what they want is investment capital because they have to build that product out. And the
mm,
investor is thinking, how committed are you?
mm,
Because these investors know what it takes. So they're thinking, if I'm going to back this person, are they going to be there at 3 o'clock in the morning when
mm,
it's so bad anyone else would quit? Because
mm,
they know that's going to happen because it's going to happen.
mm,
That's how it is
mm,
with this. So I get that question. Now, I think the solopreneur is a bit different because I don't think the people I'm dealing with are looking for investors. I don't think they're looking for resources to scale. I think they're looking for an opportunity to make enough money to fund their lifestyle and do what they love to do.
Hmm.
I think it's a different kind of dynamic and situation. So, how do you jump off the cliff and do it? I think if you know you can add value in the market
Hmm.
and you can do something for other people that's really valuable for them, commensurate to maybe a 10x return on the money they give you, whether that's financially going back to them, health benefit back to them, life benefit back to them, whatever it is that you're marketing. I think that should give you a lot of confidence
Hmm. Hmm.
because that you can do something with. But if you go out there and you're just like, I've always loved painting, so I think I'm going to go be a painter. I'm kind of like, well, who's going to pay you for that, and why should they pay you? Well, I'm not sure. Like, well, you want to figure that out before you quit your job.
Hmm. Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, you have to figure out when the income comes in, then you can make that decision that if you want to pull the plug behind you, right? So yeah, I totally agree with that. Larry, thank you again for answering all these questions. But very briefly, if you don't mind explaining to people what your company's all about and what workshop are you working with, if you don't mind.
So the approach that we're taking is that I think solopreneurs need a support system. And I think the challenge is if you think about a one-man band where you have all these instruments, you're out there trying to master and play all these different instruments, which is, impossible. It's incredibly difficult. So the idea is building a support system for solopreneurs to be able to do what they want and be successful at the things that they're good at. So what does that look like? It's a pathway, really. It's a structure. So within that, there's really 6 stages people want to move through. So you want to build the company from the inside out so you're unique. You want to build the company with the market, so you're building something people will actually buy. You want to have a really compelling product and offer structured in a way that's understandable and clear to the people you're selling it to and hard to say no to. And you want to make sure you have a good revenue system so you're able to bring in client opportunities and close them. And then you want to be able to build an infrastructure that allows you more time to do the things you like to do and less time to do the things you don't like to do. And that could include partnering with somebody or hiring a few people. It's possible. And then finally, you want to oversubscribe your offering so you have enough customers. You don't have to go out and chase customers all of the time. So we're working people through that whole process. That's what it's about. And what I offer to people is a free weekly workshop every Thursday at 10 o'clock Central, 11 Eastern, where we just spend an hour and we go through a topic each week related to one of those 6 areas. So people get an opportunity to learn how to do some things and meet some other people that are kind of doing the same kind of things that they're doing.
Yeah, thank you again, Larry, for explaining that. And I think I'll sneak in and see what your workshop is all about and try to
Great.
understand if that's okay with you.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you again, Larry, for that. But before you leave, let me ask you this, and this is kind of a new segment of Back to Basics for season 3. Um, if I ask you certain words relating to this whole topic today, what is the first word comes out of your mouth when I say these things? Okay, core principles.
Core principles, foundational systems,
Okay, income,
um, income, um, freedom,
satisfactory,
um, enjoyment,
lack, lacking,
reality,
shadow work.
mm, honest exploration of self.
Thank you so much, Larry, for answering all those questions. It's
Yeah,
something
that one's hard.
it was hard. See,
That
that's
last part's challenging.
thank you again for that. And then, Larry, do you have any books that you are reading? Try to anything fun, anything mystery, or anything related to today's topic, whatever you think is best.
Oh, I have so many books that that I'm studying right now. I think for anybody who wants to really understand marketing extremely well, which I think we really do need to get. There's a book called Breakthrough Advertising
Mm,
by Eugene Schwartz, which
mm,
has been incredibly enlightening to me.
mm,
And I would strongly recommend that to everybody.
mm,
Another book that's been really meaningful is called The Hero and the Outlaw.
mm,
I think Margaret Mead and Carol Pearson. I may have those names wrong, but that's about it's about branding, but it applies to solopreneurs and finding your own inner power and
mm,
the impact of that on the world, because that's a starting point for us when
mm.
somebody's building their business. So I like those two books a lot.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna go and grab those books too at the same time and understand and read those. So thank you again for that. But Larry, before you leave, and thank you again for all answering all those questions. Of a lot of people were asking that what is all solopreneurship and what is entrepreneurship, or what are these preneurships that we just, there's just too many words there.
Yeah.
So thank you again for explaining that. But before you leave, do you have any last words for my Back to Basic listeners, and how was your journey on Back to Basics too on top of that?
I just think it's such a fascinating concept, and I was honored that you would, give me the opportunity to come in here and talk about everything that I'm doing. And I think the world is shifting in this direction more than it ever has before. I was on a call with somebody earlier today who was just talking about being a minimalist, simplifying his lifestyle, all of this. I think a lot of us are really overwhelmed, and you can shed a lot of that stuff. You
Hmm.
don't really need to we don't need to be overwhelmed. You can shut off the social media. You can shut off the cable TV. You can it's what I've done. I mean, I don't bring my phone with me. I'm not on my phone all day, glued to it. I've kind of built some habits around that. That's what it means to me. I think it's just get rid of all this crap that makes us nuts.
Yeah, thank you again, Larry, for coming on the show and making this definitely honorable for me. Thank you again for that, and we will speak soon, definitely for sure, Larry.
Okay, thank you again. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. So, guys, we spoke with Larry today, and we talked about the basics of entrepreneurship and solopreneurship, didn't we? And then we talked about that: do we need freedom or do we not need freedom? We all need freedom, of course we do. Now, there's a quote of the day from Back to Basics, and hopefully, my guest will like the quote from Back to Basics, as what we usually do in these episodes. And the quote is: success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. And it's very true, isn't it? The more and more you do the routines, it becomes a habit. And that's what I've learned from all the episodes that I've done so far when it comes to entrepreneurship, businesses, technology, and all the stuff that I've learned so far in the last couple of years on Back to Basics here. So, as usual, as always, what do we always say at the end of the episode? Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care. God bless. Keep on supporting me and all the stuff that I do, and I'll see you next time on Back to Basics. Hi, guys. Thank you again for tuning in to Back to Basics and listening to the excellent episode that we had today with our guest. You know, with your love and support, we do need you to at least rate our show, review our show, because it does make us stronger day by day, week by week, as I usually say on my episodes. And there are three things in this episode that it makes a hit for me, which is the content, the guest, and definitely the host. So guys, take care, God bless, and remember, everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care, God bless, and see you next time on Back to Basics.